is as you read this book, and the bad guy is getting close, if I'm doing my job right, you're going to be saying to yourself, oh God, I hope he doesn't get them. I hope he doesn't do it. And all of the other characters who are swirling around will try to stop him as well. I urge you to go to YouTube and look at one piece of film that will just amaze you. It will bring you back into the moment that I've been describing here, or into the time that I've been describing. It was filmed by the Pathé News Service, the British equivalent of Movietone News. They got permission to put a camera right here. The podium is right here. FDR is standing here, the camera is here, and Churchill is behind him in the background. They're not paying a bit of attention to the camera. It's the night of December 24th. Roosevelt comes to the podium, and of course he walked and could hold himself up at the podium. And then he says, and now for the 9th time, I light the National Community Christmas Tree. And he presses a button, and you hear the bell chime in the distance, and that was the lighting of the tree. Then he gives a speech, and after the speech is over, he turns to his old and good friend Winston Churchill, who puts a cap on that evening. And all of this is on film, and you feel like an intimate observer as you watch it unfolding in front of you. It goes on for about 13 minutes, and Churchill says this: here in the midst of war, raging and roaring over all the lands and seas, creeping nearer to our hearts and homes, here amid all the tumult, we have tonight the peace of the Spirit in each cottage home and every generous heart. Therefore, we may cast aside for this night at least the cares and dangers which beset us, and make for the children an evening of happiness in a world of storm. Here then, for one night only, each home throughout the English-speaking world should be a brightly lighted island of happiness and peace. It's a wonderful expression of what they were fighting for. It's a wonderful expression to those of us who hear the resonances of history when we write these novels, of what we all strive for in history and here in the early 20th century. And if that Nazi assassin pulls that trigger, Churchill might never get to say this. So when you sit down to read the book, keep rooting for the heroes to do their job and stop that guy before he does what he might do to change the history of the world. Thank you for listening, and I'll be glad to answer some questions, but I won't tell you who lives or dies, because Keith would be mad at me. Yes?
I will admit I've only read a few of your previous novels, and they take place over 400 years,
Yeah.
and they go back and forth. What's the time frame of this whole story?
Well, that was one of the challenges that I wanted to meet, which was to write a book that only took place in a couple of weeks. Begins on December 8th, and the denouement is December 26th.
Really?
Yeah,
The whole thing?
that's it, yeah. And it's, I decided that there would be two means of organization. It's got a 3-act structure. Los Angeles, the chase across America, so you'll be on the Super Chief, and then in cars driving on the Lincoln Highway, and then you'll get to Washington. And I would say that there are some Hitchcockian influences there, movies like Foreign Correspondent or Strangers on a Train. They're all buzzing in the back of my head. I do play with a lot of familiar tropes in this movie, in this book, and it is also organized on a day-by-day basis. Every day becomes a chapter. We don't even have chapter heads, and that in itself was is something of a challenge, because you need to make sure, if you're going to have day by day, that you have on each day you have something interesting have happen. Otherwise, you're going to have to just keep rolling along. And I hope I'll keep you interested page by page and day by day. Bill?